do you need penetration testing? Because computer-related crime is on the rise. To find holes or weaknesses before somebody else finds it out, to escalate the problems to the management, to take proper action, to verify whether the configurations are secure enough. It also helps you to train your network staff on security issues, what to do, what not to do, how to implement security properly, discover gaps in compliance against international standards if the organization is following on, or with regulatory requirements. And it is also used to test new technologies on what exposures are there which can be exploited in the technology. So that is why people do penetration testing. There are legal aspects also for penetration testing. Attacking a network from the outside carries ethical and legal risk to you, to the tester, and the remedies and protections must be clearly spelled out in detail before the test is carried out. Thus, it is important that you receive specific written permission to conduct the test from the most senior executive. Meaning, if you are doing an ethical penetration testing or a penetration testing, you need to safeguard yourself to the maximum possible, because if you have not taken the permission of the organization for conducting the test, then you can be in serious trouble. There can be lawsuits, the system can go down, the data loss can happen. So it should be very clearly spelled out what the aim of the test is, what the objective of the test is, what can be exploited, what should not be brought down. You need to have explicit written instructions for conducting a penetration test. The customer also requires protection measures. It's not only your side, the customer also needs protection measures. You must be able to guarantee discretion and non-disclosure of sensitive information by demonstrating a commitment to the preservation of company's confidentiality. So there should be a legally enforceable NDA signed between you and the customer before doing a penetration test. That will give the customer a legal viewpoint in case any information is divulged by you. And also, the designation of red and green data classifications must be discussed before the engagement. Green data is your public data, information, which is not of much value to the organization, or it doesn't matter to the organization if that particular information is divulged. But then there are red data where it is critical or sensitive in nature, where the penetration tester should not disclose the data. That data should not be redistributed, it should not be deleted, it should not be copied, it should not be modified, it should not be destroyed. Then the crucial thing is the credibility of your firm or you as an independent penetration tester and the company's ability to conduct the testing without interruptions to the customer's business is also of very serious consequence. So the company should engage or employ only knowledgeable engineers or security auditors who know how to use minimal bandwidth tools to minimize the impact on the network traffic when the test is being conducted. It should not be like when the security auditor or assessor goes for a test, he uses up all bandwidth by running multiple tools on the network. At a peak time, let's say if it is a banking organization, when the customers are there at the branch and you conduct the penetration testing, say during between 9 and 11, you are running 6 or 7 different tools, thereby using up the bandwidth. So the customers feel that the customer service at the branches are slow because you are eating up the bandwidth. So care should be taken to ensure that the customer is not impacted by the penetration test that you are conducting. So we have seen what is penetration test. We'll see what is vulnerability assessment. It scans a network for known security weaknesses. So the initial phases of penetration testing applies to vulnerability assessment also. And vulnerability scanning tools searches the network segment for IP-enabled devices. So anything which has got an IP address, it searches, the tools search for that IP-enabled devices. It enumerates systems by specifically stating that these are the number of system forms, this is the operating system installed in it, these are the applications which are installed in it. The scanners also test systems and devices for exposure to common attacks. So the common attacks which are there for specific ports or services are tested by the vulnerability scanners. Now the difference between this and the penetration testing module itself is that here the vulnerability is identified and reported. In penetration testing, you take it one step further and try to exploit that vulnerability or provide a proof of concept that it has been exploited. And the VA scanners also can identify common security configuration mistakes. So let's say you are running Nessus, you are running it on a Windows server, and you use a plugin for testing the passwords. It will say that the password configured in the system is not as per baseline requirements. So it identifies common security configuration mistakes. So when you look at vulnerability assessment versus penetration test, vulnerability assessment is a process of identifying, quantifying, and prioritizing or ranking the vulnerabilities in a system based on the exposure. It reveals potential security vulnerabilities or changes in the network which can be exploited by the attacker for malicious intent. Now, penetration testing is a method of evaluating the security state of a system or network by simulating an attack. So, the subtle difference here is here in penetration testing, an attack is simulated from a malicious source. This process involves identification and exploitation of vulnerabilities in a real-world scenario which may exist in the system due to improper configuration, known or unknown software or hardware weaknesses, operational weaknesses, or loopholes in the deployment of safeguards itself. There are limitations of vulnerability assessments also. The scanning tool is limited in its ability to detect vulnerabilities at a given point in time. If your scanner is not updated properly, or if there is a vulnerability that has come in, say, last night, your scanner will be limited in identifying that vulnerability because it does not know that that vulnerability exists. Or zero-day threats. Then the scanning tool must be updated when new vulnerabilities are discovered or improvements are made to the software. Then the methodology used and the diverse vulnerability scanning tools assess security differently. Now your NSS may detect it differently, your NE-expose may detect it differently, your GFI Vanguard may detect it differently. So which will have an impact on the result of the assessment. There are different types of security tests, like your blind, grey box, white box, blue team, black box or red team, double blind, reversal. So here you can see that attackers' knowledge of the target increases as you go towards the right, and target's knowledge of attack also increases when you go vertically. Grey hat is a cracker or a hacker who exploits the security weakness in a computer system or a service or a product in order to bring out the weakness to the attention of the organization. This is unlike a black box. A grey hat acts without the malicious intent. The goal of the grey hat is to improve the system and network security, but by publishing a vulnerability, the grey hat may give a clue to the potential attackers or an opportunity for others to exploit that particular vulnerability that he has found. Okay, this in a way differs from the white hat, who alert system owners and vendors that a vulnerability is there without actually exploiting it in public. So there's a subtle difference between black, grey and white hat. There are extensive documentation available on the internet regarding these four types of testing. You can learn more by Googling it. This is an example that the red team hacks all computer defenses. So you can keep telling yourself that the red team is a friend, but there was an instance in Canada, in New Mexico, Albuquerque, New Mexico, where the red team itself attacked the network. It's a very interesting article. It's a news release also. Again, Google this and read more about this. The basic goal of penetration test or pen test or PT, it's also called ethical hacking, is to examine the current state of security of the IT infrastructure. So by performing the control tests or attacks, a penetration test or a PT uncovers the security flaws in a very realistic way. The spectrum of tested system also ranges from simple online shops to complex company databases and networks. The attack method also manifold and encompass everything from passive information gathering to targeted attack from the internet and the identification of weaknesses. Hence, the adaptation of penetration test to the customer's requirement guarantees the practical relevance for that test. So, for this reason, even before a client decides to work with a red team, a preliminary meeting is held with the potential customers to discuss how to organize their pen test for optimal results. Now, the process for penetration testing we have seen in the previous slides. There is a reconnaissance phase, there is a scanning and enumeration phase. Then in the planning phase, you plan on what systems have to be tested, what is the scope of the penetration tester, classification of green data and red data. Then you go for the discovery phase, where you discover the number of servers, the number of network devices, the applications which are installed. Then comes the attack phase or additional discovery phase, where certain instances may crop up. Then goes the reporting phase. Then the action that are to be taken to protect the network. So basically you have in the discovery phase a reconnaissance, scanning and enumeration. In the attack phase, you gain access, you escalate your privileges, then do a system browsing to see what is there and what is not there. In the discovery phase, you have a lot of systems that will be identified, and in reporting you have, or in actions taken, you have results, or the results of your test will reveal lack of security policy or poorly enforced policy, misconfiguration of systems or settings, then reliability of the software itself, and also failure to apply patches, that is systems, unpatched systems or systems not patched properly for security vulnerabilities. All these will be evidenced. If you go a little bit further, you'll see in the discovery phase of PT. First is your footprinting, where you gather the initial information and determine the network wave. So some of the tools which are used are Whois, a smart Whois, NSLooker, Spade. Then in your port scanning phase, you have identification of active machines. You discover the open ports and access points. You fingerprint the operating system. You uncover the services on the port. So these four phases will come under the port scanning. Some of the tools used are Nmap, Ping, Traceroute, Superscan, NC or Netcat, NeoTrace, Visual Traceroute. Then in enumerating phase, you map the network. Now that you have footprinted and done a port scanning, you will have an idea of what the network is. So you map the network. Then the attack phase steps with loopback. Now the discovery phase we have seen. In the gaining access phase, enough data has been gathered in the discovery phase to make an informed attempt to access the target. So in the gaining access phase, you have sufficient information gathered during the discovery phase so that you make an informed attempt or you make an attempt to access the target itself. Once you have done that, then you go to the escalating privilege phase, where if only user level access was obtained in the last step, the tester will now seek to gain complete control of the system. So in the gaining access phase, if a user account has been compromised or if the attacker gets the user account, his next intention is to get complete control of the system by getting root privileges or administrative privileges. Then comes the system browsing phase. The information gathering process begins again to identify mechanism to gain access to trusted system. So once he gains full control of the system, again the information gathering process begins to try and find out mechanisms to gain access to trusted systems. Then you install, add, test the software. That's the final phase. Why it is called a loopback phase is once you come into the system browsing phase, you go back to the discovery phase and fine tune your results or fine tune your scanning. And once you install and add your test software, you again go back to the gaining access phase and repeat the process. So that's why it is called a attack phase steps with loopback. We have seen in brief the types of penetration test. You can classify broadly again into external test and internal test. Under external test, you have black, white and grey box testing. Internal test can be done by a curious employee who just wants to know what the security posture is, or disgruntled end user. Again, this is a dangerous type of test. Disgruntled administrator, since he already has administrative privileges, the damage cost can be huge. It can also be done by internal auditors to test the security posture of the organization. Now, when is testing necessary or required? It was traditionally done once or twice a year because of the high cost of service. The penetration testers were an expensive commodity, so testing was done on a limited period, maybe half yearly or maybe once a year. Now, because of the automated penetration testing software, the costs have come down, the time has come down, time for conducting a pen test. So again, the organizations can afford to test the security posture more frequently. So periodic testing will involve your test phase. In testing is across or as a cycle. When a new attack comes, when you need quality assurance that your network is safe, when you roll out a new product, when you upgrade an existing product. So it is a cycle. It's a cycle where you can do a penetration test at different junctures of implementation. It can be a new attack to test whether a new attack is affecting our organization, to ensure the quality of products and services that you are giving, to have a rollout of a new product or a software or service